In this module, we will cover form validation, exception handling, the module export feature, classes and objects, array and object destructuring, and map and set objects. Client-side validation is an initial check and a very important feature in order to have a good user experience. By catching invalid data on the client side, the user can fix it right away. So before submitting data to the server, it is important to ensure that all the required form fields and controls are filled out in the correct format. There are three main reasons to validate user input. We want to get the right data in the right format. We want to be able to protect our users' data, and we want to protect ourselves. Exception handling refers to the process of responding to the occurrence of exception errors during the execution of a program. The try block must always be used, even for single statements. At least one try block and one catch block or a finally block must be present. Exception handling comes in three forms: try catch, try finally, and try catch finally. A catch block contains statements that specify what to do if an exception is thrown in the try block. The finally block will always execute after the try block and catch blocks have finished executing. It always executes regardless of whether an exception was thrown or caught. ECMAScript 2015 specification introduced modules into the JavaScript language, which allowed for the use of import and export statements. Before the concept of modules appeared in JavaScript, if a developer wanted to organize their code into segments, they would have to create multiple files and link to them as separate scripts. Modular programming design allows you to separate code into individual components that can help to make your code more reusable and consistent, while also protecting the global namespace. A module interface can be implemented in native JavaScript with the import and export keywords. The two most used data structures in JavaScript are objects and arrays. Objects allow us to create a single entity that stores data items by their key, and arrays allow us to gather data items into an ordered list. Destructuring assignment is a special syntax that allows us to unpack arrays and objects into a bunch of variables, as sometimes it's more convenient to work with them that way. Destructuring also works great with complex functions that have a lot of parameters and default values. It is called destructuring assignment because it destructurizes by copying items into separate variables. A class is a programmer-defined data type which includes local functions as well as local data. You can think of a class as a template for making many instances of the same kind of class or object. An individual instance of the data structure defined by a class is known as an object. You can define a class once, then make many objects that belong to it. Objects are also known as instances. Here's an example of a class of person, and this person has name, age, gender, interests, and a bio. It also has a method that gives a greeting, and you can see we have instantiated two person objects from our person class. In 2015, ECMAScript introduced two new types of iterable objects: maps which are ordered collections of key value pairs, and sets, which are collections of unique values. A map is a collection of key value pairs that can use any data type as a key, and it can maintain the order of its entries. Maps have elements of both objects, a unique key and a value. A set is a collection of unique values, and unlike a map, a set is conceptually more similar to an array than an object.